read in the spring. No help on it. No help on it.
Call on me if you need a little help.
Do you need any help? Do you need any help? I can handle this job all by myself. Well, she called me her little piggy wiggy, and I call her my little thingamajiggy. Every time I ask her for a kiss, I can hear the voice sound something like this. Oh, help on this. No help on this.
Just call on me if you need a little help.
Do you need any help? Do you need any help? I can handle this job all by myself.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, there are no public here, so.
Tim?
All right. I need an approval of last meeting's minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Reports.
All right. Elementary report enrollment. We are up from our last meeting. We're at 201 right now. Numbers are listed right there. Looking back, October 16th, Mr. Slater and I attended the Mazda workshop in Missoula, Montana Association of School District Attorneys. I found this to be a very important professional development opportunity for us. The Montana Association of School District Attorneys were there to discuss current legal cases in the circuit courts, Supreme Courts, and other things that were pending, things that they had suggested we keep an eye out for as, it's basically what builds the policies that we all use in our schools. And so get kind of an inside the legal cases look at some of those cases. I thought that was very interesting. They also discussed investigation techniques as it pertains to our jobs as administrators and when we need to investigate certain things and how we should go about that. A great deal of discussion about social media as it pertains to staff and students. And it wasn't the full doom and gloom thing that you often experience at attorney conferences like this. There was some helpful information there that we were able to take away and just ways to keep our district, our teachers, and our students safe. Then, of course, the general red flags to watch for as school leaders. So it was a worthwhile day. Lots of talking, lots of listening, but very, very worthwhile professional development. I'm thankful that Mrs. Neeskins let us attend that. Currently, we are just about finished with massed assessments. We have a couple stragglers that we're trying to finish up with. Data has been a little bit interesting. We're still trying to work out a few kinks there. I ascertained today that everyone has in fact completed tests, but we don't have data for some of them. So we'll be working with OPI to make sure that we get those in, so that we have that. They've updated the way in which they present the student data, which I think is going to be very helpful and beneficial for the teachers and for the school as a whole. So I'll keep you apprised of that. Hopefully by our next meeting we will have it fixed by our next meeting, but I'm hoping sooner than that. And then Veterans Day Assembly, very well done once again by Mrs. Heilig and Mrs. Ronsberg. It's not just about the celebration of the veterans. That's of course the key component there, but it's also a celebration of some patriotism. It was great to hear the kids sing. They'd prepared some great music, and one of them, the elementary kids, even signed the song. Which takes a tremendous amount of work to get prepared. And major kudos to Mrs. Ronsberg and Mrs. Heilig because they continue to put on a very nice honoring ceremony for our veterans. Looking at current projects that we have underway, teacher evaluations for non-tenured staff. I am one editing session away from being done with my 7 that are the non-tenured staff in my building. basically just giving some kudos where they've earned them and suggestions for improvements where they need them. Evaluation is an important part of our job, and we're just about there with our first round. They're due this Thursday. Parent-teacher conferences, of course, was held last week. A few teachers have one or two that they're making up that couldn't make those times, but we still are, as of right now, we're over 94% of our parents attended the parent-teacher conferences, and by the end of tomorrow, we should be right around 100, but I did not get complete data on that yet, but we generally have in the high 90th percentile of our parents that show up for that. Barb Redder was here from DPHHS. She was on site with Parenting Montana. She had an informational room set up in our conference room where they were talking about this time some avoidance of tobacco products. And she always brings something to the table to help educate our parents on the dangers of various things that our students are exposed to this time, and provides them with tools to help combat that. So I'm thankful that she's able to come to many of our functions. Looking ahead, late fall is always exciting. Teachers are working hard for every instructional second of time. Of course, December is such a busy month with all the activities and the excitement along the holidays. Every minute counts, and we are working towards making every single minute count instead of counting the minutes until Christmas break. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Mr. Koenig. Mr. Slater.
All right, thank you. Following Mr. Koenig, that professional development in Missoula was exceptional. It was really great to both spend some time with him on the road and then just listen to current cases across the state. We spent a lot of time talking about investigation techniques like he shared, so that was good. In addition, one of the best things is using my newsletters be on point. Did you guys see that? It's 2 bulls the Ryan boys got? Jacob and Noah. We got a double bull first week of season. Anyway. No, good stuff going on. Enrollment, I didn't put down. I did look at it. We're about the same in the middle school. The high school's up to about 160. I start with attendance, tracking that, and we are up a percentage point. Middle school and high school, 94% middle school, 92% high school. Learning behavior, October 29th. Last year we went paperless with our report cards. We did that again this year. Haven't heard any complaints about that. Parent-teacher conferences were pretty good. Overall, the teachers said there was an increase in visitation. We don't get the turnout that you do in the elementary school. I mean, we're definitely significantly less of that, but we did get a lot of parents, so that was good. Recently had our high five assemblies, and that's a chance to recognize academics. We also recognize the teacher of the month. So one thing I've put out on my newsletters is kids, everyone with a Whitehall domain email can nominate and say great things about teachers. And besides the teacher that gets the award, I print off and email those guys all the good things that kids say about them. The teachers love it. Mr. Clements was our teacher of the month. Well deserved. He's doing a great job. In addition to teaching, coaching, opening up the weight room, he does so many things for us. He's doing very, very good. We have a lot of great staff. NHS recently did a blood drive. That went well. That's an annual thing that they do. I can't know if I can pronounce the word. It starts with a V, who they work with. It's not Red Cross. It's Valiant. Violent, is that what it is? Violent. So that went well. That's a good thing. Veterans Day Assembly is such a great tradition. Looking back, I've been so, just so lucky in so many ways. But the state vet's home is in Columbia Falls, Montana. And when you grow up, you think everything is a certain way, is your hometown. And they do a great job with that. And then being in a couple different districts, some districts don't do much for Veterans Day. Some schools, believe it or not, don't allow recruiters in, and it's something that's controversial. That's one thing we do here is we do welcome people in, recognize Veterans Day. It's a great tradition here in Whitehall. I know I greatly appreciate it, and getting the community to come in, it's a good chance to showcase our school. Teacher observations, evaluations, definitely a highlight. Enjoy the time in the classroom, seeing what's going on. Our FCS, to see a program that's up and running and kids utilizing those things. that's great instead of it just being, a room that just wasn't getting utilized. So that's good. I go through a lot of different highlights. Another new class we started this year is the film class with Mr. Leary. If you haven't watched the news, I was talking about it before it started and joking around about it, but it's a good chance for kids to be creative, and I appreciate the new things that Mr. Leary is bringing into our school. In addition, he's become a little bit of a Mr. Exclusive, following up Mr. Koenig on the mic. He does a great job. If you were at senior night volleyball announcing, he just does an incredible job with stuff like that. Definitely a student favorite, which is awesome. Professional development, Rel Northwest, that's a misprint that's from last year. One thing we are working with, the focus of Rel Northwest this year is moved to family and community engagement. Ms. Neeskens talked to the principals about that at our cabinet meeting today, and then working on our teams to represent and seek those goals with a family community engagement plan. One thing I'm excited about that I have no experience with is Model UN. So as an alum from the University of Montana, Missoula, one thing they do very well is global outreach. They host the UN Montana conference. So sent something, an email out, and I'm working with Mrs. Kidd and Mr. Norbeck to select some sophomores and juniors. Looks like this year we're primarily focused on juniors to send to Model UN. What that is, it's a chance to meet with kids from across the state and discuss global issues and kind of see how it's a mock small UN, but it's an academic thing. It's a great thing. I'm excited about it. I've been emailing back and forth and got Whitehall. They're going to let us come, even though we're a little bit behind. It'll be our first year attending. And then out of that, they're going to select some kids, and I think it'll be funded by the Phyllis Washington Foundation through the Mansfield Center to send them on a trip to Taiwan. Now, that's not a guarantee. It's going to be something that's competitive, but just the fact that there's a chance for a kid to go to Taiwan, I think, is amazing. Upcoming stuff, 16 days until Thanksgiving. I put that on there. It's my favorite holiday. I love it. We have dance coming up. Yeah. Not as excited about that as I am about Thanksgiving. But we have a dance coming up this weekend, Dancing Under the Stars. So I'm very excited about that. It's a bit of a fall formal. So that's great. I don't want to miss a thing. I really appreciate the time to get together. And honestly, there are so many great things happening in the middle school and high school. I know I want to keep myself short, but I really encourage you, if you don't, I post my newsletter on Facebook. Go through this. Student of the Week's on here. Gabe Hildreth. Here's Mr. Clements. I talked about him. That's the double bowl. My joke didn't go too well, but I'm proud of those kids. We have a hunting tradition. I had a couple of principals that follow me, and they're like, "You put that on there?" And I'm like, yes. They were so proud. Yeah, I did. Film class, this mental health screening, I'm not sure how many people have got their forms back. So if you are, this is a good thing. It is an opt-in, and then we're working together with the Rural Behavior Health Institute for a mental health screening. Indian Education for All, November is Indian Education for All month in the state of Montana. Huge heritage there. My staff, our district does a good job with that. See if I'm missing anything. I had an MASSP meeting today, a regional MASSP meeting, and I'm very glad to be in Whitehall. So that's one of my takeaways from those meetings. And cell phones, we talked about that. We also had a tobacco specialist that visited recently, Chris, and just shared some different statistics about that. One thing that I get asked about sometimes is vaping. Vaping has been on the decline. That being said, we still have vapes and tobacco use here as we do across the state, but a lot of schools have experimented with vape sensors, and from the principals I spoke with, they said they saw a year later, they think it's not a good investment. So just from listening and learning from them, we don't have any vape detectors, and the grant money, they're actually looking at not supporting vape detectors anymore with grant money because it's more of a gotcha, and they want to be more on the preventive end of things from the state. So that was a lot, but there's a lot going on. Kudos to all the people that make this place work, and there's a lot of great work going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. You're up.
All right. Our community has been exceptionally generous to us this fall, so I just want to publicly recognize all of the donors who have helped us with various things. So Whitehall Country Store donated $5,000 this fall to our Angel Fund, which helps pay for students who may not be able to pay their lunch bill or afford their activity fee. We got a TIF award from the Tax Increment, what does that stand for? Finance Fund. Yeah, okay. And Golden Sunlight, those two things in tandem. So they each gave us $5,000 to finish out the landscaping and the play area for our daycare building. So it won't just be dirt and concrete there come spring. We're excited about it. We got some trees in this fall, which was, we were hoping to get in sod as well, but it didn't quite work out how we wanted it to. So anyhow, it'll get done, and now we have the funding to do it. Ron Roginski also donated $1,000 to the Angel Fund this fall. And Kevin Brunette came in last week and gave me $5,000 to buy coats and winter gear for students that needed those kind of things. So really, really appreciative to all of the people for being thoughtful in their donations and realizing that there are people in our community who need a hand up and providing us a way to do that for kids. So really appreciative of that. We also received from the Jefferson Valley Community Foundation 2 grants. One was written by Erica Ronsberg, and that was for sound equipment for the music concerts to improve the quality of the experience for the audience so people could hear better. And the other one was our field painting device for the football field has ended its life. It's no longer usable. So realizing that, athletics is constantly a struggle for us to fund, Curtis wrote a grant for a new field painter and received that grant as well from JVCF. So very appreciative of all of the support we've received from the community this fall. It's been remarkable. Veterans Day, again, echoing the principles. Thank you to Erica Ronsberg and Janet Heilig, who did an exceptional job, per usual. I don't think I've ever been to a concert where I was let down here in Whitehall. It's always good, and this year's theme was the flag, which is, certainly a symbol everyone can unite behind. So it was a very, very touching event. And then finally, I've been hitting school finance every single time I've reported. And this time, I would like to share with you what's called STARS. And so if you'll go to the STARS school funding document on your iPad, that has the document that I'll be reviewing. This is a concept paper, so I told you I would update you if there was kind of legislation that was actually in the works. This is the concept paper which will lead to the STARS Act. So this is actually legislation that's being proposed, so it's not like a nebulous idea. This is proposed legislation. And the two representatives that are proposing this change to school funding formula are Representative Lou Jones, who's out of Conrad, and Representative David Beatty, who's out of Hamilton. They're both leaders in the House and also on the House Education Committee. They are certainly, due to their exposure on the House Education Committee to kind of finances of schools, they've realized that the state has fallen behind in funding schools, and they want to provide some additional funding mechanisms to help alleviate some of the budget woes that schools face. And so there's some main concepts there, and then it goes into a lot more detail about how this could actually look. But the 6 main concepts of this bill are really what to focus on. So they want to revise and enhance the TEACH Act, which basically creates a minimum salary of $40,700 for every teacher. So like our base salary would have to be $40,700. Currently, it's like $36,900. So they would create a funding mechanism to support basically increasing that starting salary for teachers. And then the second one is the Future Ready payment, which is supposed to go operational in 27 as like a trial thing, but they're actually trying to get this kind of permanently as a new state-funded component. But basically, it's supporting those kids that are doing post-secondary credits or industry-recognized credentials with additional A and B. So this would really work out in our favor because we have so many kids doing the post-secondary experiences. So we have, I think, 22 kids doing 30 credits. And so we would actually get, anywhere from $800 to $1,600 per kid in the high school. So that's really an exciting opportunity. They have their elementary students. I'm not quite sure what that means in the context of this, just because I don't really, they're referring to it as post-secondary credits, so I don't really know, like, you'd have to be very accelerated. So anyhow, that's exciting. Then the third concept is to modify the funding formula, and that's what I went over in our last meeting, was kind of like how we're funded, but modify that formula to increase the max budget limit in certain districts if you're in an area that exceeds the statewide median housing amount. You can see on that second page kind of like their formula. So if you're 105 to 100%, 110% of the statewide median for housing costs, then you would be at, your max budget would increase to 102, and so on and so forth, up to 106, depending on how much more expensive it is to live in your area. And certainly when you think about where we live compared to, say, the High Line or Eastern Montana, we are certainly, I think, eligible for that. So this is money that you would actually have to pass on as a housing stipend for employees, not just including teachers, or provide district-provided housing, one of those two things. So it's an opportunity to help people out with some of their cost of living in an area where if you're making $36,900, it's hard to find affordable housing. And then the next concept is increasing the major maintenance aid to fully utilize state designated revenue. So right now, there's restrictions put on what you can spend that on and how it's distributed, and they're really trying to open that up so that schools can get things, big projects done, like roofs and boilers, which are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just improve that to actually get that money flowing, because really when you look at schools across Montana, they're all aging buildings. There's very few new school buildings, and so it's just something we're all facing as a constant large cost. And then the sixth and final concept is ensuring the state gets credit for the funding it provides outside of the main funding formula. So essentially, ensuring that the state share includes all of these items and reporting this, so basically they can ensure that schools are getting equitable funding. There's some school districts that are super fortunate to have like coal or oil or whatever in their districts, and some of this is state equalization, so that basically they're not pumping additional dollars into a district that's exceptionally wealthy to start with. So just more attunement to kind of what's going on around the state. So I do think it's a promising bill that could really infuse us with some much needed funds. Both Lou Jones and David Beatty are Republicans, and currently the House and the Senate both have a Republican majority. They lost their supermajority, but they still have a Republican majority. So I do think it's going to get bipartisan support and has a very good chance of passing. So I do think in the context of kind of where we're talking about how we're basically falling behind the state with funding, this could be very, very helpful for us. So, any questions on that?
Thank you. All right, on to old business. Resolutions to approve independent district banking.
Okay. So you have, if I can get this to work. Now I'm having a Gina moment and not being able to get back to my screen. Thank you. You have, maybe you can figure that one out.
I accidentally did it.
Oh, good. You have in front of you two resolutions, and both of these are required in order to move forward. So the first one, and just to kind of put this in context, I think all of you were actually here for that meeting where we had Todd come and speak about why this would be beneficial for the district and how it would, potentially make us a little bit less reliant upon the county for reconciliation of our accounts, and also have the potential to invest our funds in maybe a more strategic way. So if you approve, you would need to approve the resolution, the school funds and investment resolution, which was sent out to you previously, so hopefully you've read it through. But basically, it references every legal, every law, every reference, basically why we can do this and why we think that this is best for our district. So it does have to be voted on and approved by the board, and then, of course, the county has to accept as well. So there's twofold. So I don't know if the treasurer will accept on behalf of the county, or if the commissioners will do that. That's a county decision on how they want to put their approval on it. But basically, we would first have to move to do the resolution. Following the resolution, then, there would be this agreement that we would propose, which is the second document, the county treasurer agreement, which basically spells out who is doing what as we kind of sever our relationship, but also who is doing what moving forward. Because the tax dollars still have to be collected by the county and come to the school district. So currently, the tax dollars come in and the county keeps them in their account and then doles money out as we put in cash requests to request our money. In the new model, we would request our tax dollars as one lump sum from the county, put them in our own accounts where we're investing them for interest, and then distribute them to ourselves without having to go through the county to get our money. So essentially, the county was acting as a bank, but not in real time. So the reconciliation piece of doing banking with the county is it's a month in arrears where we actually reconcile our accounts, and that's really not advantageous to keeping real-time records and making sure we're staying kind of abreast of everything. The other piece of that is it makes it really difficult if there's an error or something that needs to be corrected. For example, this month we were told by OPI that we had $14,000 additional dollars in one of our funds that they forgot to give us last year. And they gave it to us 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they forgot to give it to us. Anyhow, they were audited, they discovered it, and so they were basically giving us this funding they forgot to give us. So what we had to do was retroactively code some of our previous expenses to these new dollars that were in this specific account, which creates a nightmare a little bit between Alyssa and the county, because then we have to do what's called JVs to move all the money around and so on and so forth with the county. If we were doing our own banking, it's literally transferring money from one account to the other. So for those type of reasons, that's why we feel like this would be beneficial. Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, you said it all. It's, I can do, I can do my job more efficiently. I did it at the town, and honestly, it's gonna be easier for the county, for them as well, because basically they collect the money and send us a check. Like that. So I think it's a win-win.
Right.
So we need two motions here. The first would be, we need a motion to approve the banking investment resolution. Anyone?
I move to approve the banking investment resolution.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And the second would be the county treasurer agreement resolution. Do we have a motion to approve the county treasurer agreement resolution?
I'll-
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll get working on it. It won't be until fiscal year July 1 that we're able to switch over.
All right. Athletic expenses and revenue report.
Okay, so you have this document as well, and each page is its own sport, starting with volleyball on the first page, which ended the season at a $9,777 cost, basically, deficit, however you want to put it. We made revenue at 3 games. We were able to actually pay for refs and come out a little ahead. So that is improvement from last year, where we had 0 games where we had made money. So that is actually an improved amount. And if you remember, I think we were closer to like $3,000 last year just on the gate for volleyball. So we're half of that. And that really, I think, has been because of our fee structure change. We've been able to capture more revenue from people coming in and help offset our costs more. We still ended up negative $1,619, even with our new revenue concept, but it's half of what it was. So improvement. Football's on the next page. We also were in the black for 3 games. And in the negative by just smaller amounts, like $22, $262. A significant improvement here as well compared to last year. I mean, when you look at the cost of officials, it's costing us for some games $600 just for the officials. So it's so expensive. I think people wonder, what is this money being spent on, or they think it's being spent frivolously. Well, these are costs that are established by the MOA, Montana Officials Association. Like, we don't get to choose what we pay people. We have to pay them for mileage, we have to pay them per game, we have to pay them more for varsity games than sub-varsity games or middle school games. There's a lot of complexity to how it's funded, so, or how much we pay. And then you can see kind of if we had to pay for meals when we were on the road or travel expenses. So basically, we ended the football season $1,355 short of where we would ideally like to be, but again, improvement from last year. Middle school volleyball, middle school's tough because we don't get revenue from anyone coming to, or we don't take tickets, right? We don't ask people to pay to watch middle school games. So that's always kind of a negative for us. Unless we change to charging people to get in, that's always going to be that way. But so it really compares very similarly to last year, $1,700 as the cost. Cross country, because they're able to take the van as opposed to, so those new vans that seat 12 and 15 have been a great cost savings for us already as far as athletics, FFA. It's going to help with wrestling in this coming season. But basically, they allow us to not have to use a bus. So if you look at the busing costs up above, if we were doing that for cross country, we'd be, $200 to $300 a trip, and probably even more in some respects because cross country is like an all-day event sometimes, and so there's a lot of downtime for the drivers. So we ended up spending around $1,400 for cross country. Then you look at middle school football. Again, no revenue there, so it's all expense, and our expenses were $1,700. Finally, we have cheer with $412 in expenses. And then, of course, for all of those sports, you have to figure in the coaching stipends as well, which kind of puts us obviously well below what we've collected. So we collected $14,200 in activity fees. So that, as you can see, once you figure in coaches, we're still not really anywhere close to what our expenses are. Our goal, however, when we were kind of making the changes we were doing last year, was more to break even with our events than it was to cover our coaching costs. So we are coming closer to that. This is certainly improvement from last year. All right.
Coaching costs come out of a different.
So coaching costs are budgeted in our general fund, and the other costs that you're seeing here come out of our S account, our athletic S account, and that's the one that's going negative constantly. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you know what the total is of all those for fall? Did you guys add them up at all?
Oh, I did, and it's in my office. Sorry.
That's okay.
You'll have to.
Just all the S account expenses, is that what you need?
Just from the, yeah, like these accounts put together on each one.
Any more feedback on activity fees from
We
parents?
had two parents complain. One was grumbling, I think is the way to put it, but respectful. And the other one was highly disrespectful to our Rotary staff that works our Rotary volunteers that work the front desk to take admission. Rotary was actually very put off by the whole thing and was rethinking whether they even wanted to help us because of how rude and out of line this person was. AD and principal both met with this person and basically said, this can't happen again. You can't behave this way. And, oh, by the way, those are not school employees sitting there. Those are like elderly people in our community who are volunteering to be there, and they are not the correct audience for your displeasure. That conversation really went nowhere after that. He requested a complaint form, which we've never received, so.
Was that displeasure with the cost at the gate or with the?
He was mad. He had to pay for his child to play and pay to get in. So that whole concept, where we did away with basically the whole family gets in, when one person pays, which, it hasn't worked out for us financially. It hasn't allowed us to cover our costs. We are coming much more close to that when you consider like all of the changes we've made, so.
I was able to add up just the S expenses, and it was $8,259.50.
Yep.
And then we'll, again, be collecting the activity fees, which we wouldn't have historically for winter sports.
Yeah, and winter sports is our most expensive season.
Yeah.
Between basketball, which when you consider them playing potentially 6 games somewhere away, that's a lot of downtime. Our trips are further, like West Yellowstone, Gardner, White Sulphur Springs. It's like an all-day event, and so we're paying for a lot of driver time and a lot of downtime. Obviously, too, wrestling is highly expensive. They have 5 overnight trips. And that we have to pay for hotel rooms, we have to pay for, meals and so on. So that is consistently our most expensive sport. And so although we're coming out a little ahead in our fall season, we will be upside down by the end of winter season, even with the increase in fees. So based upon previous years of expenditures. So we are going to probably do better with wrestling this year because of the vans. So because we have a 15-passenger van and a 12-passenger van, the coaches can drive the vans and actually not have, we don't have the school bus driver costs. So to take a school bus driver in an overnight trip, you're paying for all their downtime, like when they're sleeping, when they're in the hotel room.
Paying for their hotel room.
Paying for their hotel room, their meals. Not having to have that cost is really nice. And then the other piece of that is there's more flexibility to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And you don't have the bus you can go eat anywhere because you don't have a bus to park. I mean, there's strategy to where you stop because of the bus being so large. And so you can change have more freedom, I guess, to do what you'd like in a smaller vehicle.
All right, on to new business. Hire middle school girls basketball coaches Carrie Sacre and Megan Johnson.
Yeah, so I think these were lucky, that we were lucky to get these two to agree to coach. So Carrie has been a longtime part of our basketball program, and all the way from varsity high school on down to middle school for many years. So glad to have him back. And then Megan Johnson played on our successful basketball teams, a few years ago. So really excited to have both of them involved. And she coached volleyball, so she knows the kids. So recommend hire.
All right, any motion?
I move to hire the middle school girls basketball coaches Carrie Sacre and Megan Johnson.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, hire paraprofessional Alex Carr.
Yeah, so Alex has experience working with disabled adults and children for equine assisted therapy, so she's a great match for us for a special education para. She's doing a good job so far. She started already. She is the person that was filling that physical therapy. It was OT, occupational therapy aide position that I spoke to you about, I think at a previous meeting. So she's already working in that capacity, so just expanding her role to be additional hours here.
All right, we need a motion.
I move to hire Alex Carr as a paraprofessional.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And we need to approve the claims and accounts. This is two separate motions.
Yep,
Do I have a motion to approve the elementary claims and accounts?
I move to approve the elementary claims and accounts.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I move to approve the high school claims and accounts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Second.
Motion passes.